So with that, just running through the referendum scope of work, this is what's presented on your website for the concepts for Marshall and the basic scope of work. In the referendum was we're adding a secure entry, a fire alarm system, video surveillance, a clock PA analog system. We'll have pickup and drop off, emergency generator, and some other ADA upgrades. So that's what the voters approved. And then this fall, we did get approval to move forward with updating HVAC boiler, adding air conditioning to Marshall, doing a lighting upgrade to LED throughout the school, replacing ceilings as required, which is a fair portion of it, and then doing a partial replacement. So that's the total scope of work for Marshall. So with that, we did remove the south drive from the scope of work, with the team decision. We did update the bus loop on the north, so you can see, well, it's gray, the parking lot's new. It has a bus loop with the cars to the left. It's close enough that we didn't need to remove or relocate the fence or the shed, so that's good news. We maintained 58 parking stalls. We maintained East Drive. We have a safe path from the parent drop-off down to the front of the school along a sidewalk in a painted area. And then no other additional site work was required to accommodate the pickup and drop-off. We did redo the access point into that parking lot, so everything should be flowing smoothly. The new equipment that's out on site is we're doing a condensing unit. It's a DX, direct expansion cooling system for the building. We're adding a new generator, and because of the cooling system upgrade, we're updating the power for the school. So just high-level overview here, just different areas of work. Depending on how the color indicates how heavy the construction is in those areas. So the secure front entry, I classified it as a medium renovation. We moved some walls, ceiling, not anything too extensive. We also walked through with ADA upgrades with handrails for the stairs, grab bars in some of the toilet rooms. We're working with Ryan and his team to put some end panels on some of the cubbies that don't need ADA. It's pretty straightforward work. We don't need to replace the whole cubby set. We're adding pipe wraps to some of the sinks that might have some protection underneath the sinks. We're replacing some door hardware that does not need ADA, and then we're updating the stage to allow for ADA access. So other work that's included in the different colors throughout. We have patching that we're doing. We're replacing some casework where the unit ventilators might be coming out, and then the mechanical room and the electrical room have pretty big equipment changes. So on the upper floors, other things that we're doing, continuous working on is the handrail replacement and the stairwells. And then we did add ventilation to 2 offices on the 3rd floor. Well, they're currently storage closets, but we're adding ventilation and cooling to those. And then we're enhancing the cooling system, air distribution in the conference room on the 2nd floor. So looking at the ceiling replacement, the areas in gray are where we're replacing the ceilings to accommodate the HVAC work with ductwork changes above. And then the pink area, which pretty much indicates the whole building, is where we're replacing the lighting as well as the ceiling. So under the hatching with the gray, if you look hard enough, there's some pink under there too. So, and then we are working with Ryan and his team to do a partial roofing replacement to make sure that we're accommodating the areas with the highest need. So mechanically, this is a mechanical driven project now instead of the couple of items that we had before. So we're replacing boilers, pumps, water heaters. We're adding cooling to the majority of the building that's not already cooled. We're replacing unit ventilators with overhead air conditioning. And getting a little technical briefly, we're adding 1 indoor air handling unit, 2 rooftop units, and adding 2 energy recovery units with hot water heating throughout the building, and then direct expansion cooling. And again, we're for the mechanical side, we are providing the trap wraps. And this is a topic that we did bring to the City Historical Society, and they were fine with the units being replaced as is. So the big unit on the top of the 3rd floor, you don't have to do anything special. They were fine with it. They allowed it to go through. And we are providing screening on the other 2 mechanical rooftop units the Historical Society gave us a blessing to proceed. So that
So
no extra
you
cost.
weren't held up at all by?
We weren't held up at all, no delays. So they were really accommodating to work with us, and I would say that was, again, a good effort, but, us in the city to get that through.
Tremendous.
Electrically, all the support systems, lighting, telecom, fire alarm, security. We did have to upgrade some electrical work in the library. We are replacing the existing generator and the transfer switches. We did have to rearrange some of the storage in the basement to get everything to fit. Like I said, there is an electrical service upgrade to handle the cooling system, lighting for LED. Ryan and I are working through the video surveillance system. That won't be part of this bid package, but it will be a separate bid package to directly deal with that. And then we're working with Ryan to go through mass notification upgrades for the building at the same time. So that's Marshall. So moving on to Rib Mountain. Not a lot of work going on here. This is, again, the referendum that's on the district website. And we have the secure entry fire alarm system panel change, video surveillance clock PA system, and ADA upgrades. And this one's a little bit more straightforward. So we're still doing the secure front entry. We blocked in a door to added a sequence path to get people safely into the front of the building. Pretty straightforward there. And then, the ADA, again, we're making the stage more accessible with the lift. And then we're removing, actually the drinking fountain, we're still verifying exactly which drinking fountain we're changing. And then the changes to the scope, that's really important, is Ryan had already completed the fire alarm work. And then the clock PA system has been upgraded to a mass notification system. Again, mechanical and plumbing, it's really straightforward. There's a drinking fountain with the 88 water filler, and then reacting, the HVAC is reacting to the new secure fire changes. It's not that expensive. And that's, and then electrically, the same reaction to the electrical systems for the secure entry. We're working through video surveillance updates, and then there's recircuiting emergency power. Pretty straightforward. This is very close, other than those two items that I mentioned before, to what the original reference scope is. Moving on to Franklin, so that's the other big school with a big change with the mechanical system. So again, we have the concepts that were presented to the public through referendum site. What we have is, again, the video surveillance clock PA system. Here we have some elevator repairs and modernization, other ADA upgrades, parking lot, a brand new parking lot you can see in the northeast corner. We're repairing some floors that's sinking and looking at some site work. And again, this one also had some changes that was outside the additional scope that was added. This scope, again, this fall, HVAC upgrades, we're adding air conditioning, replacing part of the roofing, updating the lighting to LED throughout the building, and then replacing the ceiling is required to accommodate the HVAC changes. So we did, and this is what we presented at the 50%, so there's no site changes other than what we talked about before. We did remove the parking lot and some of the other site maintenance work, and then the added scope is just a reaction to the HVAC, which is the chiller and the transformer that would be outside. And the white box on the top is where the new chiller is going, right next to the street, and we did work with the city to make sure that they were good with, it's within the setback, and so we're gonna we are working with them, and they approved that chiller solution. So moving through this pretty quickly, we have the basement here that there's a lot of work going on in the old mechanical rooms. The air handling units are coming out, boilers. We are modernizing the elevator down there. We're adding card access to the elevator. And then, we're replacing the handrails into the stairwell that's indicated as shown. Moving up to the first floor, we're doing the secure front entry. This was a scope add, like we presented last time. It was secure, but it wasn't following the district standards, is what we agreed upon initially for the secure front entry sequence. So we updated it to match that. So with some of the savings that we got from the site, we applied it to here. So we have this similar process, you know, to access the building as the other schools. We also removed the stage with some of the site work to turn that into a special ed sensory room. So that's, stage will be coming out in the gym, and we worked through with Ryan, and then Ryan was working with Wendy to make sure that that effort was per the district's special ed standards. Moving to the room across the hall from the front entry, we have a special ed room where the floor is sinking, and so we got the geotechnical report. We looked to see what was going on underneath, and it does look to see that the fill was not adequately put in when the footings were, and there's no footing in that section, so that's probably why the floor was sinking. So we're gonna be adding a new fill, a new foundation, you know, a footing down beneath, and when that area is ripped out next to the toilet rooms, we are gonna add a special ed bathroom into that special ed room right next door. Flatten out the floor, reinforce it. Our structural engineer's been working on that to get that right design. So that area is gonna get ripped up pretty heavily, but we think it's gonna solve the issue with the sinking floor in that area. Other things, ADA upgrades are pretty similar as the other buildings throughout. So some door hardware, some stair railings. Because we're taking out the stage floor and making it level with the gym floor, you know, putting in walls and things like that, we don't need to address the stage upgrades for ADA. And then other things that we're looking at too is, you know, we're adding ductwork in a lot of the closets. So if you see the small little purple squares, there's a duct drop in a lot of those spaces. So we're working to recover the storage that might be lost with that change. But we've been working with the principal and the staff, so they're aware of the changes to accommodate the new cooling system coming into the building. And then going up to the second floor, we have new stair railings, so they're all ADA, some bathroom, grab bars, things like that. The closets that we're fixing to get the ductwork in there. And then, again, the elevator modernization on the other floor with our access. So again, we're still losing or replacing the majority of the ceilings in the space, and then we're doing a full lighting retrofit throughout the whole building. And then the roof, so these areas too are the roof areas that we're looking at bidding out and getting part of the budget. So with that, it's again another really mechanically intensive project that we're working here. We're relocating the HVAC grills and diffusers, the pipe wraps. We're replacing the boiler, heater, and water pump. So this is something that was a design decision because the complexity of the basement, we would have to do things with ventilation down there, that it was actually more straightforward to just replace the boilers for the, I can go down the rabbit hole if you guys want me to, but I'm pretty sure you don't. Anyway, it's a cost-effective solution that enhances the boiler plant with the domestic hot water heaters as well. And then we're adding cooling to the building with a chiller instead of DX. In this case, we're replacing the air handling units. We're adding a chilled water coil to the existing air handling unit and then updating the plumbing to be affected by that new special ed bathroom. Electrically, a lot of this similar things that we're doing in the other buildings. We have an old electrical panel in the library, existing generator. I did this again. I did this to you guys last time. I'm sorry. This is Marshall. So electrically, we're reacting to mechanical system changes, the full X, the lighting, LED throughout the building, electrical service upgrade to handle the new chiller, video surveillance, mass notification upgrade, and then just those two bullet points that I apologize for digressing back to Marshall. And then Lincoln. With that being said, we have a pretty straightforward scope of work here: new secure entry and fire alarm system replacement, video surveillance upgrade, clock PA system, and ADA upgrades. And again, you know, we're updating the secure entry to follow the district protocols for a required sequence. We're moving the drinking fountain, adding the ADA upgrades for the drinking fountains. And then the only real change to the scope here is we're updating the clock PA analog system to mass notification. Pretty simple mechanical plumbing reacting to the front entry and then reacting to the bottom floor. that being said, that was probably as quickly as I could go through all 4 of those buildings, hopefully doing them justice. So we're presenting here a simple chart. We don't have the columns like we did before, but what we're tracking in the budgets that we got back from our 75% design review, we're tracking to the budgets that we gave to you guys in September, October. So it's on Marshall is 6,832,600. Grid Mountain is 198,000. Franklin is 5,300,900. Lincoln is 268,000 for a total of 12,599,500. And again, we're tracking to the budgets. You know, we gave you budgets a couple months ago. Things are still looking pretty good. Not a lot of scope has changed in the meantime, and we feel confident that we'll hit those numbers on this day. Any questions?
Yeah, Ward, any questions?
I just got one sheet. I got, it must have been 10 years ago, we worked with Nexus to do the energy exemption work. Back, God, it was 10 years ago, probably 10 or 11 years ago already. And I recall lighting upgrades being a big part of that back then. Are these, like, because I noticed there's a lot of lighting, whether it was Franklin, Marshall, Grid Mountain, I don't think there was much, but is this work that we just didn't get to back then, or is this an upgrade to what we had already done during that energy exemption period?
You know, I can't actually directly answer that question, but I can find out and
Okay,
let you know.
I would just be curious.
Yeah.
I think I remember they took away the ability to do some of these LED. We can't do that energy exemption anymore, so I think that
Right.
ended before we could complete the.
I remember Franklin being heavy on windows in particular.
Okay.
And you're right, the lighting upgrades weren't as quick of a payback, so we were gonna maybe come around with the lighting upgrades, and by then the energy event efficiency exemption expired, and we never got a chance to do it, I think, but Sherry, you probably got data where you can take it up, maybe give it
Yeah,
to us.
I can verify that.
I was just curious, I do recall the ROI being a part of that, because we did prioritize windows all over the place. Okay.
We weren't here for 10 years ago, but it makes sense why you would ask that question because of the fact that it was already done, but obviously it wasn't completely done in those buildings, correct?
That's
Because
my
it went out.
recollection, yeah, I could maybe even find it.
You got a chart on that?
Yeah, it's a spreadsheet.
Yeah, should be a chart
Excel
there.
something. It was probably Excel 97 back then.
Now, I just have a question pertaining to Lincoln. I know these buildings fairly well. Lincoln, that whole HVAC had to be taken out, correct? That was in tough shape.
Yeah,
Or were you able to use some, and what about that?
At Lincoln, the HVAC changes are minor. It would just be to react to anything with the vestibule. And let me just get the floor plan out, because, you know, I guess I can just go back to. So with Lincoln, the biggest thing is just, we pulled out a set of doors, expanded the vestibule, so we're moving some diffusers around. It's really simple, so the big piece of that mechanical work, we're not touching the systems.
Okay, so that was basically my question,
Mhm.
the fact that are we redoing or not redoing and things of that fashion? Because some of these buildings, well, Lincoln and Rib, those have been around for quite a while. There'll be a lot of work to redo a lot of that stuff. So I'm looking at the prices, and we're putting a big chunk in John Marshall, which needed the HVAC. They didn't have air conditioning in many of the upper level floors, so that was a big thing. And then Franklin, obviously, at one time, that was renovated not a few years ago. I sometimes look at the few years that I think in my head as being a few years ago, and it might be 20 years ago that was done. So I can see the bigger price range in those. So just asking those general questions.
Yeah, and I think the general scope was to focus on safety and security with the systems and the front entry that supported that. And the rest of it was pushed aside for another time.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on the board? Thank you very much.
So we would like to have a board action to move.
Exactly.
We recommend, I think I read this, the plan designs for John Marshall Elementary School, Mountain Elementary School, Franklin Elementary School, and Woodford School as presented to be issued for bidding.
Well, you're taking my thunder away. That's okay, I'm gonna just say, I'm seeking a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions, follow-up questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7, legal expenses for second quarter 2025-2026. Interim Assistant Superintendent of Operations Elizabeth Channel is presenting a summary report presenting all legal counsel expenses incurred during the second quarter of 2025-2026. The report is broken down by law firm and by type of legal advice sought. This is a written report that requires no action. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this does not require any action, but I just wanted to point out, the top chart up there is just our second quarter, expenses, and then you see, up to date to December 31st of 2025 at the bottom. That's all I have.
That's
Is there
it.
any questions?
Okay, just one, we're heavily concentrated with Brennan, Lewis, and Lacey. Is there you may not know this, but is there a reason why we're going to them more often than others, obviously?
They provide our specialized services, legal advice, so that's been kind of the heavy area with it. We have, I think, a pretty trusted counsel from them.
For special ed?
Correct, yeah.
Work?
If there's, maybe Wendy can speak closer more to it, but if there's mediation or DPI conflict, those things that are involved, then we get counsel involved with that.
Do any of those other firms provide that type of service? And we just don't use it, or?
They do.
Okay. I raise it because I know that they're now at the forefront of some issue going on in another district relative to special ed. I believe it was special ed, I'm only going off what I heard, so it may behoove us to find other resources for that service, depending on what transpires with their recent issues.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Elizabeth. Good question, Pat. Sometimes you need to take a look at different firms periodically, and that's something that the administrative team will do when you report back to us when that takes place, so thank you. Let me see here, taking a look at 26-27 district calendar. Ms. White will present the draft of the 2026-2027 school year calendar for school board review. And I turn it over to both of you. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. This is the proposed 2026-27 school year calendar. It is essentially a rollover of the current year. There is one change, though, that I do want to bring to your attention. It is specifically those days marked in October. Based on feedback this school year, the 3 days in October were held a week earlier. We received some feedback stating, please revert those back to the last week, as there are a lot of conferences held during that time. So we did that. And then if we look at the 28th, we are going back to what we did the previous year and holding all afternoon conferences for all grades on that Wednesday. This year, we had secondary on that Wednesday and then elementary a couple weeks later. So in this proposed calendar, they're all on the same day. And then just a few other points before I answer any questions. This calendar does meet the instructional minute hours requirement set by DEI. This aligns to our teacher contracts. I know there is interest in making sure that the big breaks specifically align to those of other districts. This calendar does that. And it's not just the winter break and spring break. October aligns as well, of course, November. There are 3 traditional snow days built in, so just like this year. And then I believe that is it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I've got a question. You had said that it aligns with this year, but I think this looks more similar to last year. Because this year we have a later spring break than this, and we have 2 weeks off for winter break, and we don't in this proposed one, so this must be similar to what last year's was.
Yeah,
The winter break this year, we were able to do 2 weeks.
Yeah.
With this proposed calendar, that was harder. It would have pushed us into the second week of June had we done that. Because at some levels, we just meet instructional minutes and hours. And then, of course, we have summer learning to consider too. So this, by having just that week and a half winter break, we can end the first week of June, and then summer learning can start shortly thereafter.
Was there a committee formed this year?
There's not like a traditional calendar committee. We get feedback traditionally from principals who are more than welcome to take it to their staff. We of course get feedback all year long from not just staff, but parents too. We even get a couple of students who share feedback as well. But going forward, we are taking a closer look at the process.
So this is the same conversation we had last year, and so I'll say the same thing I said last year, which is we need to go back to having a committee. I don't know if we have to have a board motion and have a discussion to force it to happen, but it should happen. Like, we used to always have one, and then it went away. I don't know if it was COVID or what, it went away. But when teachers ask me, well, did everybody consider like going a little bit later in June so we can have this day off, or have this, or have this? It was always better to be able to say there's a committee of teachers on there, that people you know that are also teachers that you can talk to, as opposed to, this is what administration put in front of us and we just said yes because of what we know. Because that's what this feels like to me. It's like, I mean, I know we have to approve it, but I don't know anything about this to approve. I feel a lot better if the process came with teachers, principals. I don't know if parents were on that one before or not, but it would be a bad idea to have them on there. Because then it comes to us and then I can say, here's the process that was used, and you're right, us school board members don't really know much about it, but we approved the process that got to this point, as opposed to rubber stamping what came to us.
Yeah, we were just having that conversation about bringing some form of that calendar committee back to get more voices.
It might be the exact same result as this, because a lot of it, your hands are tied, but that process to get to it, I think, is important.
Any other questions? I just have one. Did we or do we talk to the local districts around us to identify some coordination in the calendars? I know
Yes.
everybody's doing that right now. All school boards are approving the calendars, and they're always concerned about the district next door. You know,
Correct.
because many people live in the district next door and they're working at a different school district. So they like to see their kids off at the same
Yes.
time that they are. So have we talked to them?
Yes, absolutely. We've been in close contact with a number of local districts to ensure those big breaks align, certainly, and then hopefully it doesn't happen with all districts, but that those start and end dates align as well.
I just remember being a teacher for many years and thinking that was more what I was concerned about than anything else. And that's what I've heard as an administrator from many of the staff members. That's what they're concerned about as well. So that's good. Thank you. All right, with that, I'm seeking a motion to recommend to the full board to approve the 2026-2027 district calendar.
So
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Agenda item 9, presentation of financial projection model assumptions. Interim Assistant Superintendent of Operations Channel will share many of the key variables contributing to the district's multi-year financial projection model. The model represents a baseline using current information to which adjustments are subsequently made. The projection model uses budget numbers from the 2025-2026 district budget with percentages and/or dollar amounts cast forward, along with adjustments to create this baseline. Once these assumptions are built into the projection model, it will be presented to the board at a later date. So, you're there.
Good evening again. I am going to go through just the projection model assumptions. And once I get through the entire memo, then I will see if anyone has any follow-up questions that I can address. So when you're looking at the first part where we're looking at salaries for all of our employees, Our CPI is 2.63, so we just put in that budget assumption for next year. Not saying that that is where we will land, but that is where we will be for right now, just for this initial assumption. So you'll see that we have that reflected all the way down through all of the employees for the district. Once we get to the teachers that are listed, you are going to notice that for the 26-27 school year, we're looking at a slightly lower number of retirees. Just an anomaly for this year. Whether or not that actually comes to fruition or if it is a little bit higher, we'll see once we get into that year. But that is what we are forecasting at this time, which will bring a salary retention of that $78,000 or so. In addition, we will have attrition of about 45 FTEs that will happen within that 26-27 school year as well. That will give us back about $55,000. So we're looking at new hire salary in that $52,000 range for the 26-27 school year. When we get to the next section for our benefit assumptions, FICA and WRS, those are the standard increases that you see, so we have calculated those in for that. And then when we're looking at our life insurance and disability, really no change there. We pretty much keep that consistent. When we're looking at our health insurance, you will see that that percentage has gone up a little bit. Remember, again, this is just the budget assumptions that we're looking at right now. We're just trying to project out. But health insurance premiums have increased, plan design changes increase that percentage a little bit, and it just takes, costs are just tracking higher, so it just makes sense for us to budget higher for that. Again, as we move further into the year, we will get that number cleaned up and closer to what we think it will actually be. In the next section, under non-salary and benefit expenditures, for Fund 10, that is a fund that we control. The budgets that we send out to all our departments and buildings, you'll see that there's no change there because that is something that we manage, and we do manage that very well, and we stay within the expectations for budgeting there. And then under utilities, you'll see we just have a 1% projected out. Utilities have been pretty stable. Sometimes they go up a little bit, sometimes they decrease a little bit, so we were able to keep that steady at 1%. For transportation, you are going to see that, know that you are in 26-27, you'll be in the second year of the 5-year contract that you signed with for student. On this projection sheet, I accidentally copied over last year's information prior to the new contract, but that is actually going to be a 4.5% increase that we will be looking at for those next 5 years. So I apologize for that mistake. I'll make sure that is updated when I bring this back to you when we get closer to solidifying our numbers. Under district insurance, you will notice that under district property, it says 10%. Nationwide property insurance has been increasing, so we are reflecting that here in our rates as well. And then the next line item, you'll see workers' compensation is at 5%, and then it drops back down to 2%. We use a 3-year rolling average for that, and right now, we have an increase in our workplace injuries. Typically, we look for a 1 or less than a 1 for our mod. I thought that was right. But right now, we're at a 1.4. So that is impacting us a little bit now, but once that falls off, we will be back to that 2%. Under Fund 27, that covers some of our special education funding. You'll see that's at 0% as well, because again, that is something that we manage within the district and we do that well. Under Fund 50, you'll see the assumption is for non-capital objects. Food prices have gone up, so that 2% is reflective for that increase. Again, everything else in that fund is something that we control within the district, so again, we manage that well. We have people that are staying within their budget, so you'll see 0% for the rest of that area. And then Fund 80, there are no changes there. You as a board made the decision to include all of the middle school athletics and extracurriculars in Fund 80, so we're not showing any changes there. And then for manual adjustments, so for these two areas, just here at the top of your screen, our open enrollment tuition, our trend still remains that we have more students open enrolling out of our district than open enrolling into our district. We will get to that demographic report later on in the agenda, and you'll see that on page 19 of that report. So that is just a reflection of that 2% increase that we are expecting to see. And in addition, the next line item is about the parental choice program. We are seeing an increase in families choosing to use the vouchers to attend private schools. So that is reflected on that line as well. And then in our last section here under revenue assumptions, we have the approved increase to our revenue limit. So you'll see that $325 per pupil revenue limit increase. Governor Evers put that in and said that that's going to be forever and ever. We're going to plan for next year and then we'll see where we are after that, but we have that budgeted in on one of our assumptions as well. Under other revenue assumptions, you'll see that negative 5%. Our Fund 10 balance has been taking a little bit of a hit. So when there's less money in there, we're getting less money to match that. So you'll see that negative 5% there. We're just budgeting that out for now and not really seeing any change with that. Our last two areas, revenue limit exemption. So this area here for energy efficiency. So we had about $1 million that we have been paying off a debt, and next year will be the last year that we have to pay off that debt. So some people may think, oh wow, we're going to gain $1 million. We don't really. We pay off that debt and that debt disappears and that money disappears. So we will not have any cost savings there. We will just be finished paying off that debt. And then for Fund 8 levy, we're levying about $1 million, close to 1.1, and that's what our levy is, so that is what is consistent for that next 5-year projection. And then with our special aid reimbursement, this area, we were told that we were going to get 40% for special aid. This past fall, we found out that it was only going to be 37%, so that is what is put into this projection for the 25-26 school year. But you'll see the years after, we're hoping that it will be that 40% again. Do you have any questions?
No questions?
One comment, which is when you mention some of the sections that we have control and that we're keeping it flat because we do a good job with budgeting, it's a very diplomatic description. The reality is that inflation affects all parts of our budget. So when these various departments are staying flat, they're cutting.
Yes.
So they're cutting. If inflation is 2.6% or in other years when it's 5%, they're cutting 5% of their budget or 2.6% of their budget to provide the same, or to have the same cost basically. So I don't have to be as diplomatic as you, so just wanted to make that comment.
Well, it's a good comment to be made because of the fact that we're not continuing to hire for those positions. And that's what's keeping it even.
Yes, that is our surprise.
And just a little history, it's not only zero. Many years it's been negative. And that's been kind of a go-to area to balance the budget in the past. Where we've had negative 2%, negative 4%, negative 5%. So not only are we seeing inflation, we're seeing lower budget numbers to handle the inflation. So all of the departments are doing a phenomenal job doing what they're doing. Less and less on the year.
Just coming back from the convention this past week, Sarah and I sat in policy meeting and taking a look at what's going on with special ed, I don't know if special ed will get up to 40%. And I think that's an assumption that, I don't know if I'd even put the number in there because of the fact that we were supposed to get that and it was pared back a little bit, and a lot of discussion took place from board members around the state saying that we need to have that increase in special ed, but we'll have to just wait and see. So sometimes that makes it very difficult to make projections when it's so precarious. I thought, just as you said, I thought I'd throw that one in there as well and make sure everybody's aware of that. But thank you very much. Appreciate the information at this point. You always state this, Lance, I'm going to take your thunder a little bit. This is one of the reasons why when we get to dealing with budget and we seem to go so quickly through it, it's because we are constantly getting this information throughout the year. And again, Elizabeth, you're carrying on something that has been done in the past, and we greatly appreciate it. So thank you for keeping us aware of the budget.
Thank you.
Agenda item 10, this is 25-26 student demographic report. Director of Technology, Mr. Williams, will present the demographics report for the 2025-2026 school year. Ralph, I turn it over to you.
Thank you for the opportunity to present this to you. We have just a few unique things that I wanted to point out in the report before I get started on that. Thank you. Is that it's a little bit different this year. It's a little longer. That was to try to make sure that we are compliant with ADA and the reporting. So you'll see some extra information that wasn't in the past ones. Also, a little bit different with consolidation. So on page 9, when you look at the different levels of the schools, I left in there the previous years for, say, Hawthorne Hills or Hewitt, Texas, just as a point of reference, and they'll be removed next year as the closures have taken place. So with that, if you can go back to the presentation and the next page, the total enrollment dropped by 1.76% to 7,586, and can be referenced on that page 9. Open enrollment, while the open enrollment going out increased 3.46%, the open enrollment in also increased 2.91%, and that's referenced on page 19. The district continues to attract 85% of the available kindergarten students, which has been steady for the last couple of years. Free and reduced meal eligibility did drop to 44% this year. And those are the highlights. Here to answer any questions that you might have.
Can you say that the free and reduced eligibility is that a reflection of the number of applications that we got? Is that a percentage? Is that, like, what does that reflect?
So last year when we reported it was 49%, this year 44%. There's a couple of things that may play a part of it. It's the timing of when applications come in, because those are numbers taken at different times of the year. The other thing that has changed a little bit is with the new administration coming in and the changes in eligibility requirements has also probably played a factor into that. But other than that, just kind of understanding that that's what the difference is.
So it's most likely the same number of people applying roughly, but fewer being approved because the eligibility changes is the thought. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. This was all informational for us this evening. Agenda item 11, board will continue to discuss about potentially changing the audit of the bills committee and to clarify the purpose of education operations committee with a potential rename of the committee.
And this is me, Cassie, if you go to the next next slide. This is just a continuation of the conversation that we began at Hawthorne earlier this year. One of the discussions that we had, or we're talking about, is the model that we're using, not necessarily government procedures, but the model that we're using, specifically our educational operations meeting and our board meeting. And so the objectives from kind of that meeting and for tonight is, you guys asked me to kind of take a look at some of the things that the other districts are doing and how they're going about and compare it to what we're doing right now. So if you go to the next slide, Cassie, I can go in depth more into each of these if you'd like me to. I looked at 7 different districts. I've investigated or talked with their superintendent or looked through their websites. And what really came out of this is everybody's different, and it's a very process that folks are using. So in some cases, there's 0 committee work. They have 1 board meeting once a month. In some cases, they have up to 5 committee meetings and also a committee of the whole that they do. So they're having 6 meetings outside of their board meeting, and then their board meeting, and everything in between. So as we go through, like District A, the notable for them is that they have 4 committee meetings. They have a committee of the whole, so that's the 5th meeting. And then in the board meeting, the board members who are part of the committee are presenting to the other board members. District B, we have 9 board members, 2 committees. They don't have a committee of the whole. Committee chair determines that further board discussion is needed based out of the committee. They'll bring that to the board. Committee members assigned to committees in those areas as well. So again, I'm not even going to go through all of that. It's just very varied is what it is. In Wausau, we have 9 board members. We really have 2 committees that we would use. The audit of the bills committee is one, and then our educational operations is a committee as well. So, Cassie, if you go to the next slide. I'm going to just go through this quickly. This isn't necessarily for us, but maybe for community as they're seeing this. The way that it works for us, we have 2 meetings per month. One is the board meeting. That's the 2nd Monday of each month. We have Ed Operations, which is the 4th Monday of each month. Ed Operations serves as our committee of the whole, where we're in committee discussing topics that we have. Out of the committee of the whole, if the board votes, it votes to take it to the board where an official board meeting would occur. The benefits that I see from the methods that we're currently using, the full board hears all the information that's presented. If you look at some of the committees of the other districts that you're seeing, is that they have some of the information gets pulled out, some of the board members have to ask that in the discussion. It's really not a systematic way for all the board members to hear everything that's going on. The other benefit that we have is it provides our community an opportunity for feedback between the Ed Ops committee and the board meeting. You guys will take a vote on the Ed Ops to say we're gonna move this forward. It gives 2 full weeks for the board, or for the community to see what we're talking about and reach out to you to say, we shouldn't be doing this, or yeah, this is exactly what we should do. Gives them a choice to have some verbiage with us. As transparency, every board member is hearing everything that we're talking about. There's no specific committees. Feel like it fosters collaboration between the administration and the board, meaning that we bring some information to you at Ed Ops, you look at it, you say, we really want to know more about this, can you bring that back to us next time? So it gives us an opportunity to kind of work together and to increase the discussion amongst all board members. Suggestions that we have, the one thing that kind of has been brought up with the Ed Ops is not so much the function, but the naming of it, and some confusion that we have where people may believe that we have 2 board meetings going on per month, and that the Ed Ops meeting is actually a board meeting versus a situation where we're just moving on to the next level. Some thoughts that I have on that one is to clarify that perhaps we just rename Ed Ops. Instead of Ed Ops, we call it Committee of the Whole. That's what it is. I would suggest that potentially we have a reconfiguration in here. It's a little confusing if you watch on camera. This looks just like a board meeting, where the Committee of the Whole may be more of a work group. So if we could have a U shape here, that might be something that just delineates between board meeting and a Committee of the Whole. I think for a little bit, if we feel like we want to have some delineation between the two, that we read something at the beginning of a Committee of the Whole that says this is the purpose for our meeting. It's not really voting on the topic, it's voting to move it on to the next level. And the other thing that was a suggestion out of all this is moving audit of the bills, which is a committee, into the Committee of the Whole, which would eliminate the need for a special meeting that we have. So, next slide. So questions and next steps. So like I said, if you want me to go through more of what I found out from the other districts, I'm certainly willing to do that. But really, we have 2 processes to use right now. If you guys say we're good as is, no action is needed, we just continue on, we don't need to take a vote. The other option would be to change the name of Ed Ops, the Committee of the Whole, and to move audit of the bills into the committee of the whole. So I'll stop talking and answer any questions that I can.
Throw it open to the board to discuss.
I would support changing the name of it and moving the audit of the bills into the committee of the whole. As for the rest of it, I would not waste time to reconfigure the room and, make it, if somebody doesn't take the time to understand what we do, I don't think making it a use can help them. Why do we want to pay somebody to do that, back and forth? But the rest of it, I agree. I think our committee of the whole, ad ops committee structure works much better than it did years ago when we had the two committees. We had ad ops, we had education and operations, then we had the full board meeting. That was very inefficient. And then we get a chance to hear opinions from all board members on all topics. Personally, I want to hear all board members' opinions now. That wasn't always the case, but it is now.
See, the way it is.
Thanks, Pat.
That's just how it is.
I like your point on all this, Pat. I think, as you said in your description, sometimes it's confusing for the community when they pop in and take a look at, well, is that a board meeting or is it not? But I kind of like the suggestion about making just reading about this is a committee of the whole meeting. It will be next regular meeting that the final vote would be taking place. That way then people know, oh, okay, it's in discussion right now. It hasn't been finalized. And that would clarify a lot, I think, our community. Just my thought.
I think we could, yeah, I agree with Pat. I think, we could move these around, we can move them pretty easily, but I'm indifferent to whether we do or not. But in addition to the statement, another thing we could do is just change the language that we use for our motions. Right now, we have really old language that refers to recommend to the full board, recommend approval to the full board. It's kind of weird because we're the full board. So we could change that to something that describes that we're moving it to the regular meeting or to a special meeting or, moving it forward, something like that, that it's moving out of the committee as opposed to recommending it to the full board. That might help a little bit, but otherwise, I agree with all of it. It makes sense.
Any other comments? Other board members? We've heard from the two that have been on the board for the longest period of time. Newer people?
I'd be indifferent to the moving of the tables, but all the other suggestions I would support.
I'm comfortable with all the other suggestions. The moving is kind of fun. I like staring at different people for a while, but
Yeah,
what else?
give the camera back some.
There you go. You get a different view for once.
I think it sounds great. I like the ideas. Do we need to make a motion on Lance's idea about changing the language?
It's really just the chair decides when he's saying, I think with Cassie and Jim can work on the script and figure that out, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't even think that we need to have a motion to change the name of this. That's very formal. We try to be very formal and following Robert's rules, but I don't think it's a necessity for a motion. I think we can change that and then move forward. I think you've done a lot of work on this, Gail. Do you have any final words?
I think for dissolving the audit of bills and moving in, I think we should do emotional because of the second part of it.
That's true.
And then,
That's true.
I could just make that one motion if you want me to.
The motion, we're seeking a motion to,
I move to change the name of the Education Operations Committee of the Whole to Committee of the Whole, while changing the responsibility of reviewing the audit of the bills to the new Committee of the Whole to take place during that meeting. The audit of the bills committee would then resolve.
got a second? Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Very much. Appreciate all the work you put into that, Gail. I'm seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, rolling right along. I'm calling a special meeting to order. I need to approve the consent consent agenda, appointments, additional staff, replacement staff, contract increases, separations, resignations, contract decreases, terminations, leaves of absence, retirements. I'm seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 3, approve the 2026-2027 district calendar. At the previous meeting, Diana White presented a draft of the 26-27 school year calendar for the school board review and approval. I'm seeking a motion to approve the 2026-2027 district calendar.
So move.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm requesting for a closed session pursuant to state statutes. I'm evaluation of superintendent of schools, statutes 19.851C. I'm seeking a motion to enter into closed session to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sarah Brock?
Yes.
Charles Berger?
Yes.
John Christian?
Yes.
Nick Scher?
Yes.
Kevin Key?
Yes.
Jeff McElwain? Yes. Cory Seller?
Yes.
Lance Strauer?
Yes.
Jim Boucher?
Yes. Thank you very much.